Hello, and welcome to Crafting a Revolution, the podcast. My name is Katie Freeman, and I'm one of your hosts. Every week, we bring you interviews with makers of all kinds from all over the world that identify as female or non-binary. Today's guest is Robyn Ness, and Robyn's woodworking journey began in 2017, soon after stepping foot into his first woodshop. Since then, they have spent countless hours of hard work following his woodworking and artistic passions. He's a self-taught woodworker. He is self-taught woodworker and enjoys exploring different mediums that has helped him develop his creativity and craftsmanship skills. Since starting their small business, they have taken on many commissions. He continues to work to grow his business, not just with woodworking, but also with other art mediums such as photography, painting, resin, and more. You can find Robyn and his work on Instagram. That is where I found him. And it was great getting a chance to connect with Robyn. Robyn is the first guest so far. I do plan to have more that identifies as trans masculine. And his pronouns or their pronouns are he, him, and they, them. So it was a privilege to get to talk with Robyn and have him share his story, not just with me, but with all of you as well. Before hopping into our conversation together, though, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Matthew from Artigiano Serio, both on Instagram and on the internet. Matthew is one of the a new podcast sponsor. So a big shout out and thanks to him. And then thank you, Candace, CJ Woodgrain, Lee at Lee Runyon, Annette 513 Woodworks, Katie Thompson, Women of Woodworking, also co-host of the podcast, Kevin, Lefty's Woodshop, Christy, Twisted Twine, Jeremy Speece, Sammy, Go Sammy Lee, Rachel, Moody Makes, Bonnie, Tool Mom Bonnie, toolmomstore.com, Laura, Oakley Soap Company, Brandy, Studio Obey, Lee, the Rainbow Carver, Ellen, Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. Thank you all so very much for your continued and ongoing support, helping to produce the podcast every week. If you're enjoying the podcast and would also like to help out with the podcast, please stick around to the end of the episode and I will share all of that information with you. No further ado, let's head on into the conversation with Robyn. Well, Robyn, I like to start by asking my guests to introduce themselves. So would you do that for me?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Robyn Ness. I am the small business owner of RNA Woodworks. I am an artist, a woodworker, photographer, and small business owner. And I am also Filipino-American, trans, non-binary, or trans-masculine. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here on this podcast and share my story to the best of my abilities.
Awesome. And can you share what your pronouns you prefer?
Oh yeah, so my pronouns are they, them, he, him. And to put it out there, like, if folks can practice using both they, them, and he, him, and not just one pronoun.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay, awesome. So I kind of really want to understand your story of how you got into like woodworking, and you also said like kind of artists. So I don't know if one comes before the other or if they're like the same time period. But what's that like, story of getting into that?
Yeah. All right. So that like my mind's like organized. Yeah. It would go from being an artist and then getting into like DIYing hobbies, which then translated to woodworking and like creating my small business, which then led me to like also becoming a better photographer. So it was just like, it was all like a domino effect spanning over quite a few years. But yeah, like to go more into that, like since I was a little baby, like I always loved to like draw. And like I was definitely that kid in the classroom that was like, "Ooh, look what I drew!" And like all the kids are like, "Oh shoot, it's SpongeBob and it looks pretty good." So I've always just like had a knack for creativity and like just getting my thoughts and ideas onto a paper so that I could also visually see it. So like fast forwarding to high school, that was the first time my senior year I took an AP art course, and my teacher was Miss Henry, and she was really amazing. She taught me pretty much all the basics that I know, that really helped me become the artist today. Because she, like, one, being a really cool our art teacher, she was also really kind. And like in high school, like I was struggling with my mental health, but she like helped me use the art class to like communicate what I couldn't verbally communicate. So like, yeah, in a way, like art was like a therapy for me. So then I was just like, okay, like I'll make sure to like keep my creativity in the back of my head, like moving on from that class. And yeah, so once I graduated high school, I went to Mesa College and Miramar College, pretty much the community colleges in San Diego. And
I haven't heard those names in a really long time, but it makes me smile to hear those colleges. Just from
like I
having been around
that
area. Yeah.
You're like, whoa, this takes me back. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I remember you had mentioned to me like a long time ago, like probably in a comment, that like you had gone to Palomar College.
Yep. Yeah, they have a really nice like cabinet and furniture program there. Yeah.
Okay.
You should check that out if you haven't yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually it actually translates to what I was gonna say. Like, yeah, like so in Mesa College and Miramar College, I didn't do anything creative for like the first 2 years in college because I thought like, oh, like I don't really know what I want to do with my life. Maybe I'll try out the military. So I tried out ROTC, but like it's like the ROTC in college. And I tried it out. Like I did the Army and Air Force ROTC programs like in separate years. And I was like, wait, like this isn't for me. Like I feel like my individuality is like out the door. And like I really missed that. So once I got out of like the military mindset, I was like, how can I like use what I know now to help people? So then I went to Miramar College to take an EMT course, which I did over the summer. But then again, like once I finished the course, I was like, I don't think this is exactly what I want to do with my life. So this is when I started looking into like Palomar College and like trying to see if San Diego had like a woodworking community or just like area where makers can come together. And then I found it. However, it was like super hyper masculine, white, cis male dominated. I walked in just trying to like get a like a tour, and it was like I feel like I'm already trying like being intimidated, just like, oh, what are you here for? Like I was like, oh, I just wanted to check out the woodworking space, like if that's okay. So yeah, I was just like, oh dang, like this is like stepping into like I don't know, like it really had me thinking like, oh, how can I become a maker or artist or woodworker in like a super hyper masculine space.
I would say like,
So,
I mean, I totally could feel that vibe. When I took my classes there though, I was taking all night classes because I, worked all during the day. And I should say I started that journey pre-kids, up until having my first. And so like, it was like I didn't have anything to do. So I'll just go take some classes at night. And it was still at nighttime. I don't know what the vibe was during the day, but at nighttime it was still all guys. I'm trying to think. I think I was the only female. I don't remember any other women. It was still all guys, but they were all like 60s plus. Like it was all these like retired guys who were just like coming to take classes because they wanted access to like a really cool workshop. And
yeah, that's what I heard.
so like a lot of them just treated me, I was more dismissed than I was ever necessarily like outwardly, like I wouldn't say I had any negative comments ever. It was more just like the assumption that like, oh, it's cute that you're doing this kind of thing, if that makes sense, like that kind of attitude. But I made a couple of really good friends and I've talked with other people like on the podcast about this idea of like finding the ally in those spaces so that they can help like take some of the heat for you or kind of, stand in the way. And there was a couple of teachers that weren't the best, that were like hyper masculine type thing. But that's where I found like to this day, I'm still in contact with him. Like he wrote a letter of recommendation for me to get into grad school. Like he was amazing. And he always actually would seek me out to be like, he enjoyed having women in his classes because he's like, they always pay more attention to detail and they're usually much stronger crafts people than like the guys that come through. And so he was just like, I don't know. I think I always felt like he went above and beyond to try to be a support in those spaces. And I mean,
That's really
remember
good.
he threatened to put somebody who was being a jerk. He threatened to put his cell phone through the bandsaw for me. So
hey. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like if I always try to take classes with him if I could. But I totally can, like, I guess I feel like your story is very valid because I feel like probably especially if you were looking at classes during the day, like I feel like it was probably much younger crowd and more hyper masculine. Like I got told that a lot of people that go through that program, like to get a degree during the day, they're like looking to work at cabinet shops, and it's kind of I don't know, like a rougher sort
like
of group.
Experience.
Yeah. So I could totally
Dang.
see that.
Yeah, like so at the time when I was looking at like courses like for woodworking in San Diego, that was like around 2016, so I was still pre-T, so like I hadn't started my medical transition yet. So like definitely stepping into these spaces like yeah, like at the time at the time I was using they, them, and she, her pronouns, and as well as he, him. So like at the time I was just still like very new to even in my like gender identity journey.
Yeah.
But I just knew like, oh, being in hyper masculine like cisgender and hetero spaces, it was super uncomfortable.
Yeah. I could see that. I remember I mean, when I was taking classes there when I got pregnant, and like one of those classes was a finishing class, and that was like one, I think it was the only class where it had a female instructor.
Oh,
Who I really liked her too. I learned a ton from her finishing classes. But I remember once, like, she said something about like, well, don't you know how that happens type of thing, like making a hetero like reference about heterosexual sex. And I was kind of
oh
like,
gosh.
actually, no, this is an extremely planned out process.
Yeah.
Extremely like
Yeah.
expensive process, because my wife and I
Yeah.
can't just, like two eggs can't bang together to make a baby. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work. And she apologized, all that good stuff. Like, she wasn't, mean about it or anything, but it was very much, it was just like, it was assumed.
Yeah.
Which I always found interesting, because that's one of the spaces that I've always felt comfortable being more butch presenting. And so it's like, because it's like, I'm just wearing workwear, like, and I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
like, it's not expected for me to wear makeup or like dress in these ways that I've never felt comfortable. So like, it was always interesting to me that it was still assumed, especially once I got pregnant, that I had to be in a relationship with a man. Because I'm like, no, I actually not.
Like, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This situation reminds me of like something me and my partner experienced literally like last weekend. So like I've been with my partner Jesse for about it's gonna be 6 years in October.
Oh, wow.
Or 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, 6 years. I was like, yeah. I was like, I have to get this right.
Yeah. It's going to be recorded forever. You can't get it wrong.
Exactly. So I was right. It is 6 years this October. But yeah, like so in Hillcrest in San Diego, it's like the queer spot. Yes. Like South San Diego.
Yep.
And we were at this gay bar and we get approached and the dude's like, this man is like, oh, are y'all straight? Like a hetero couple here in Hillcrest? And I was like, the first thing that I said, I was like, oh no, I'm trans. I'm non-binary. I'm way far from like being straight. But yeah, like it took me aback because I was like, we're in a queer community and like we're still like experiencing these assumptions. Yes. So like, yeah, it kind of, it made me think about like, it was like this one post that I posted on my story and then you posted on your story as well.
Yeah. The difference between queer and straight, is that one?
Yeah. I was just like, yep, everything on here is like, it's factual. It's relatable.
Well, what's funny about when I posted that to my stories after seeing you post it, the replies I got were from straight people in saying like that they really like it resonated with them. And it made me really think like something that I've been kind of thinking for a while, or that I've heard from other podcasts. Like I listened to We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle and her wife, Abby Wambach. And they've talked about often that maybe the fear of like the queer and trans community is because we've found freedom by like stepping outside of these constructs that we were raised in. We find our own freedom in our own community. And I think that is a reality. And I think maybe that's what was like resonating with some of these straight folks who responded, was this idea of like pure freedom of choice. And that resonates as far as like, that's maybe what they search for. Not also understanding though that also being part of the queer and trans community, to get to that freedom, we've had to fight like hell,
Yeah.
mostly internally, to get to that place of feeling free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way I think about it is the empowerment that I feel just living my truth, like it didn't just come out of nowhere. Like that, it was built on, it was practice, it was really hard to keep pushing back and really thinking about oh, like this is who I am. And to be who I am, like I have to break down what society has already put in place. Like it's so hard, on even just the superficial level. But yeah, like even right now with what's going on throughout the US with a whole bunch of anti-trans bills going on, when kids growing up just want to play sports.
Right.
So I grew up playing basketball since elementary all throughout high school. And I'm just just thinking about what other trans kids and the trans youth is facing right now. I'm just my heart goes out to them, and I really hope that with more people, if folks are really resonating with pushing back on societal standards, how about we get all of those folks to also push back on the standards for trans youth,
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Athena Outfitters. Athena Outfitters is a quality workwear brand for hardworking women that sells everything badass beauties need to get the job done, from work boots to basics. They curate the toughest essentials made to help you perform. Every piece is handpicked to seamlessly slide right into your daily lifestyle, from rugged and roguish weekday wear to effortless weekend flair. You can fill your closet with gear that can do it all. So for Christmas, I ordered my wife a very nice pair of slippers from Athena Outfitters, and she loves them. Loves them so much that she has accidentally gone to the gym and the grocery store in them because they seem to never leave her feet. So definitely a place to go check out, go get the goods that help you not only out in the shop, but just in your daily work around the house and outdoors. As a listener of the podcast, you can go to Athena Outfitters website and use coupon code MM, as in M&Ms, 15 for 15% off any purchase. So again, you go to athenaoutfitters.com and use the code MM15 and get 15% off of your purchase at checkout. 1000% yes. That's what I was actually thinking. I was actually thinking in leading up to our conversation today, I've been hugely in my feelings today, just in around these anti-queer and anti-trans bills that are going around the country. Like the Don't Say Gay law, and Texas's law of basically locking parents up and taking kids away that are trans and getting trans health care. And I mean, even in my own state of Iowa, the governor signed into law the trans athlete bill. And it's just so hard. I don't know if it's harder because I have kids and I just have a dream for them to be able to be themselves 100% fully. And the idea that people are putting things in place that can stop that can bring real harm to them, that could cause them to feel like they have no value in this world. I'm struggling with it today. It's heavy, and I feel you on the let's have those people who are resonating get behind us. It's the same feeling and I'm going to be participating in some, campaigns coming up to raise money to fight these bills. But I had to take a moment when asked to pause, because I was being asked by a friend who is straight, and I love her to death. I really, truly do. But I was struggling because I was like, you know what? How about we let the queer and the trans folk sit out on this one, and let the people take the like huge burden that this is and fight it. Because it's just, it feels so fucking heavy right now. It just feels so heavy.
And like,
sorry, go ahead. No, I was gonna say I want to be able to put myself mindset wise, though, also like in your shoes, like, trans mask identifying, like California is not putting these bills forward, thank God. Yeah. But I even remember being like, my wife and I moved to California shortly after Prop 8 passed, and it was a weird spot because at the time, Iowa, which nobody would think this, gay marriage was legal, but it was not legal in California because of Prop 8. So
that's crazy.
And this idea, like, we went through and we filed all the paperwork to be a legal partnership in California, as well as getting legally married in Iowa. So that, but like the idea of even just like, okay, if we travel to a state where none of this is recognized, i.e. Florida, like if we traveled there for whatever reason, which trust me is not a desired destination for me, but if we went there and something happened to one of us and one of us got put in the hospital, we would have to have all of that documentation with us just to be able to see that person in the hospital. I mean, we had in place like conversations, like, because my wife is older than me, of like saying like, oh, she's my mother or she's my aunt or whatever, just to like bypass some of that stuff if we could. And same fears around once we had kids, right? Like, she's also the legal parent of that child, but depending on certain states you would travel to, like, what type of documentation would you need in case of emergency? Like, all of those things. And I feel like it's the same way for trans people right now. It's like, you have to be careful where you even just go in this country. And your safety, and like what happens to you if something happens to you in those spaces. Like, is it okay for you even to go to a hospital if something happened to you? Will you receive care? Like, those are real questions and real things that I don't think people understand that this community has to deal with.
And okay, so like resonating with like how much like the unnecessary paperwork that you have to like bring around and like think about, like when you just want to like travel with your family,
right?
Like I completely understand this. And like so this actually just yesterday, my updated ID with my new name and gender marker came in the mail. Awesome. And like, congrats. Thank you so much. Like it was like a huge long process just to get here. And it like there was so much paperwork. And then for me in my process, like I had my so I had my top surgery excuse me, I had my top surgery before like, or at like the same day that like I was recognized by the state as Robyn Ness.
Okay.
So like and because since I did that, or like it happened to line up just like that, it was easier for me to get my name change done, because a part in the name change process is like, oh, you have to show proof that you really are trans. So
Yeah.
like if I didn't have top surgery, like a month before my paperwork was being processed with the DMV, like it would have been a completely different story. And they're like,
That's
if
insane
that makes
though.
sense.
But
Yeah,
that's insane to me that physically altering your body is required to change that.
yeah. Or like, it's like it wasn't specifically required, but like for that you would have like if you didn't want to have top surgery,
Yeah.
but you still wanted your name and gender marker changed, you would have to get a note from the doctor saying
Okay.
that like they approved this. And then that process also has like you have to take a certain amount of like therapy sessions so that a therapist can approve you and like for that. And like it like this process also goes into like accessing gender affirming care, because I was just like, okay, me as a trans masc non-binary person wanting gender affirming care, why do I have to go through so many loopholes when straight folks who get like breast augmentations or just any kind of plastic surgery, they could just, if they have the money, it's boom, it's
Right.
then like no paperwork, it's done. So I was just like it's that there's like a difference in like the lives that we live
Yeah.
like within the queer community, and just so many like unnecessary obstacles. But yeah, like overall, like I feel so much safer going out now with my ID, because yeah, like unfortunately transphobia does exist. And like a few weeks ago, like I was walking on the street and someone across the street was yelling like, oh, are you a boy or a girl? And like I was like super vulnerable because like one, I couldn't really protect myself since I was still recovering from surgery. And I was just like, oh my gosh, please like don't like actually confront me, because like if someone were to like be like, oh, let me see your ID, like at the time, like it would have put me in a really unsafe position.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just like, I guess like I'm really glad that we're talking about this and like our like queer experiences in a societal world that like is so binary and not accepting as we would like it to be, because it's really important to like have these experiences shared, because like I know that I'm not the only person going through this. So it's like that solidarity in the queer community.
Yeah. I mean, I I wish none of us had to go through it. I wish
Yeah.
I mean, I wish racism didn't exist. I wish all of these horrible things didn't exist. I wish it wasn't that we had to have. I wish these conversations weren't necessary, because then we could spend all of our time just geeking out about power tools, which is really what we want to do.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No. I'm not saying that in that sense at all. I'm just saying that like this is why and this is totally just my opinion, but this is why I think it is important to share and clarify about our gender identification, about our sexual orientation identification, about our ethnicity or identification, like all of that, because all of that becomes lived experience, which is brought to our work. And so I struggle sometimes with surprisingly enough, with more people within marginalized communities, not debating, but getting in this conversation of kind of back and forth where they're like, I just want to be a woodworker. And I'm like, I 1000% agree with you. That's all I want to be too. However, until the world stops seeing all the other things that I am, I can't just be a woodworker. Like I have to keep talking about things, I think there's importance to that. I think it's important to understand, Robyn Ness, who you are as a person, because all of that goes into your work. 100% does. Goes into your experience and your art and how you share yourself with the world. And that's important.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Because yeah, I was just resonating with everything 1,000% that you're saying. Because yeah, like to just be is like a huge statement in itself because there is all this underlying stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess I do want to understand. So, okay, so 2016, that's when you were looking at for a program in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
And so what's that connection, I guess, maybe between, you mentioned you were just kind of starting with you were using all three pronouns at the time when you went and did that tour and stuff. But what's been the interaction between, like, has been getting into woodworking been still kind of like a therapy outlet for you as you've worked through this gender transformation?
Okay, I would say like it's a and both kind of thing because like if I don't have any commissions lined up, then I'm like, okay, I got to get my work done. But now, like right now, since I don't have any commissions lined up, it's just like, okay, I could like relax and like use the space, like look at a piece of scrap wood, see what I could like use with that or do with that. But all right, so like 2016, 2016, like towards the end of 2016 is actually when I came out as trans.
Okay.
And like so before that I was using all the pronouns like he, him, they, them, and she, her. Mm-hmm. Because I was just like, okay, like I want to practice being myself and like really step into myself. And around that time, I actually like learned what being non-binary means, or what that like I learned about identifying as non-binary for the first time. So like having that new information, moving into 2017, I was able to be like, oh yeah, like I want to start going by Ness or Robyn Ness, and I want to use maybe they, them, and he, him for now, and then navigate like finding a creative space. Mm-hmm. So within the year of 2017, that's when I lived in Portland. Okay. And I was living with my partner's family, and like that was like the biggest break I needed, because during that time I was taking a medical leave from the university I was going to. So like after I went to Mesa College and the community college, I transferred to the University of San Diego, mm-hmm, the fall of 2016. And like that transition was just like a huge thing for me, and it was kind of overwhelming. So I was like, okay, I need a little break, like just here. And then towards the end of 2017, I got back on my feet. I had started my transition, like my medical transition, mm-hmm, in Portland. So that was really cool. Like December 1st was the first time I had my first T-shot. So it was just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Yeah. And like being in Portland, like everyone was just really amazing. You go down the sidewalk and you see all these like you see all these signs of like, oh, love trumps hate, and all of these other like really inclusive signs. And so it was just really nice to be there. But then like coming back to San Diego, I was like, okay, like I have a goal to like switch my major from communications to visual arts. And that's exactly what I did. So the spring of 2018 is when I got into woodworking, and I was in a wood shop for the first time. And everything I was taught, like the basics of woodworking, was taught to me by my amazing instructor, Brianna Riggs. Like she taught me like She taught me like how to use the power tools, what not to do. She she the first time I like held an impact driver, she was like, oh yeah, this one has a lot of kick to it. And I was like, oh, like what do you mean? And then she was like, well, like if you're drilling a nail down and it slips out of the socket, it could go right into your hand. And I was like, oh my gosh, like okay, just casually telling me this. But yeah, like she was really amazing as a instructor because she was also from Portland. So like she was like, hey, like I noticed that like you have a they them button on your jacket. Like, do you want me to use those pronouns for you in class? And like it was just really like heartwarming because like she really expressed like what allyship looks like in a creative space. And that class was really like nice because she also taught that to other students. So when other folks would come up to me, they would be like, hey, like do you want to remind me like your pronouns again? What name do you want me to use? How do you want to be addressed? And I'll do my best. And so just to see that, like see allyship really like working in a creative space was nice. So yeah, that's like after that class, I started my own wood shop in my parents' place. And yeah.
rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
So is your small business, like, is that the only work you do now?
Not anymore.
Okay.
So I work at an ice cream shop that's also an art gallery. So
awesome. That's a
really
awesome combination.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like I'm really excited to try and like get my own art up in the art gallery space. So I could be like, hey, y'all want some ice cream and like look at my art? Yeah.
Hey makers, today's episode is sponsored in part by toolmomstore.com. At toolmomstore.com, you can find any and all tool-based merchandise for all genders, all sizes. They've got mugs, they've got shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. I have one of the shirts myself that has the hashtag woodworker on it. And I also have a couple of the mugs that define what and who is a tool chick. So super excited with the merchandise that I have. I know that you will be satisfied as well. And also great discount for those of you who listen to the podcast. At checkout, if you enter the code MAKERMOM, you will get a 20% discount off any of the merchandise that you buy. So that's just toolmomstore.com. All right, let's head back into the action.
Yeah, are you? And then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say next week I'll be starting as a prep cook. So technically I'll be working 3 jobs now.
Which is to me, I feel like the more I'm on this path of like my own business, it's just the more my understanding grows of like all the very different ways you have to look to like making money, because you can't really do it just by like being in a workshop all day long. Like it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I wish it was.
Oh,
but yeah.
I was going to ask, when you're making art, is it wood art, or are you doing more like another medium of visual art?
Good question. It's a lot of different mediums. Okay. So like if I were to like create art with wood, that's when I would create like more sculptural pieces rather than like functional woodworking pieces. From Slightly Acute actually purchased one of my sculptures.
Nice.
Yeah, like that's like an example of like if I use my art mindset within woodworking. But besides that, like I do printmaking, like a lino cut making I'm fairly new to that. So I just picked it up 3 months ago. So it's been going really well, and it's nice because it like reminds me of how using a chisel and carving is for like woodworking.
Mhm.
So it's cool when like the creativity intersects. Another thing I do is painting. Like right now I'm preparing for an art show on April 16th. So I'm like, okay, should I make a bunch of frames for all of these pieces I have? And I'm like, like, yeah, it's a lot.
It is.
But besides printmaking, painting, sketching, I also do photography, which I'm in the works of trying to see how I can create photography into an actual business, monetize that.
Mhm.
Because like you said, it's hard to be financially stable with just being in the shop. Yeah.
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 I
But
I'm interested a little bit because of the, in August I start my MFA program, which is technically the first art school I've ever done. My background's more in engineering, so it will be interesting. But like you have a primary and then a secondary for the MFA program. And so my primary will be like furniture design, but my secondary, I've been kind of toggling between printmaking because I like the idea of learning like that and then maybe being able to apply it for like upholstery type work, or graphic design, which is more of an economical good choice because then I don't have to pay a graphic designer anymore. I can just do my own work.
That's true.
Which is like, every graphic designer I work with is well worth their money. That's not to say I wish to pay somebody less. It's just that when you don't still are not making a profit at the end of the year, it's harder to justify some of those costs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I feel that. Oh my gosh. Like so like I've been taking on more vending opportunities, and I've been like, oh, maybe like people will like to see my woodworking skills, and like maybe if I like put it a little lower, like people would be like more like enticed to like really support my work. But yeah, like I don't know, like I'm not sure if it's like a San Diego thing where like, oh, like, I don't know, like I don't really know many like woodworkers here in San Diego, so
which is
I'm
like,
just like,
so I was like the same way. I didn't know many personally, right? Like I knew them through the classes at Palomar, but like now that I don't live in the area, like I should just send you the immense list of West Coast makers. No,
that
like
would be awesome. Oh dang.
quite a few in the LA area, but there are a few in the San Diego area too. So but yeah, it's like, man, where were these people at when like I was there and like trying to find cool people to hang out with and make stuff with. Yeah. Have you ever thought about as far as like monetizing, like going kind of the content creation route in addition to your physical making?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, this is actually something I've been working on, which it's like the last push is what needs to happen. Like, so pretty much my partner's mom, she's an affiliate marketer who also like helps artists like promote their business. And she had given me this tip about Skillshare, and it's like all the videos I make on Instagram, like she was like, yeah, like all you have to do is just put it to Skillshare, and like your videos would work well here. And she said the coolest thing about that is that Skillshare really helps with the passive income. And she was like, yeah, like if you just make 5 videos, keep it on there for about a month or two, then you'll really start like seeing the passive income flow in,
Mhm.
because Skillshare does the advertising for you. So like this is what's like on the back burner. Like I have all of the content I need to create these videos, like 10 to 15-minute
Right.
videos that's like super in detail, but it's just taking the time to really sit down and create the videos with the subtitles and like yeah, like to bring
All
pretty
that.
much just plan it out and actually press that like
Yeah.
upload
Yes.
button.
I've
Yeah.
done, I probably should check out Skillshare. Like I have 2 classes, online classes available on Teachable. Um, and I went that route just
Okay.
because like I hired somebody to help kind of just walk me through the steps of like how to build a online class. Um, to try to do that. But the thing is, it's Teachable doesn't advertise for you. So it's like I have to push it out like through my social media. Um, and I've had a few people sign up, but it's like it's still not turned into what I was hoping it would be, which is a successful passive income,
Yeah.
thing where it's like I don't have to constantly push it. So I should check out Skillshare just to get a better understanding of like what the differences are and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to put it in like a better perspective, like with specific numbers, like the way that I was told is like you make 3 to 5 videos, keep it on there for about 2 months so that it could like circulate.
Yeah.
And then from then you'll have at least 1,000 to 3,000 a month, like uh
Really?
with passive income. Yeah, like it's like I didn't really realize that Skillshare is like has its own like community. If like you think it's like similar to Patreon in a
Mhm.
way, because like the folks who like I think you have to like become a member and then pay the fees, like monthly fees,
Yeah.
to have access to like these like infinite videos.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it works. But
Yeah.
yeah, like
Whereas like Teachable is like people can just buy that one course. So like I
ah,
have like one on using dyes to add color to wood projects. And that like total, it's like a bunch, it's like 5 modules in total. I think it's like an hour of time. And then I have a beginner power carving one that's 2 hours long with all the videos and stuff. Um, and each of those are, you can purchase them just for those individual classes. But yeah, I'll check out Skillshare because especially with grad school coming, it's like I need a way to like make money without physically working. So,
yeah, yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Yeah. Something I've been telling myself is like, I don't understand NFTs, but I do understand how to make videos and
yes.
upload them. So I'm just like, I'm gonna stick to that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I come on the side, I fall on the side of NFTs are just a scam, just a way for like
Same.
rich people to try to make more money.
Same. Oh my gosh. Like my partner knows, like once I hear the word NFT, I'm like, oh geez, again. Yeah.
It's
But
all
yeah.
downhill from there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, not gonna listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
How has your experience been um I'm specifically curious on social media and especially like getting linked into the woodworker and maker community on it I guess I'm thinking more specifically like Instagram. What's been your experience as far as like gender identity in those spaces? I guess I just want to know your personal experience with that.
Yeah. So far, like with the way I have my Instagram set up, it's like I have my main one and then my like woodworking and art ones.
Mhm.
And then since like most of my following like or like most of the people who follow both my woodworking and art Instagrams, they follow my personal one as well. So like they're more aware of like using inclusive language or like gender neutral language too. So it's been really nice. And on my separate creative accounts, I will like I do experience some hate, but it's usually from outside influences that could also just be a bot too.
Yeah.
So yeah, but overall, like my like one thing I have been noticing with specifically the algorithm of Instagram is that if I specifically put queer, trans, like the hashtags like queer, trans, woodworker, or queer artist, then that post gets like 0 views or like very minimal. And I think it goes along with like the new algorithm or like this thing on Instagram where you have to go to your settings and actually like do the work to make sure that you could see everyone's posts. That's like so yeah, pretty much overall the main issues I face with Instagram and like my gender identity is the algorithm part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is something also I would say, like, I've seen plenty of creators say over on TikTok as well. TikTok's algorithm tends to downplay Black creators and queer creators. So it will push those kind of to the bottom. And so like, I mean, and this is actually more of advice just to, I know people have asked me like, well, how do I get Instagram to serve me more, queer accounts or people of color accounts and stuff like that. And I know that sometimes the way I've tricked the algorithm, if you will, is sometimes I will like unfollow a bunch of white people that I follow. I will like refollow them again later, but I'll unfollow a bunch of them. And then I'll just like search like all the things like the queer artist and Black artist and Black owned businesses and, like all of those hashtags and find more people to follow and like do that repeatedly, regularly, because you have to like actively fight the algorithm. It's going to continue to show you like, if it's like, oh, you like woodworking stuff, it's going to continue to show you like the 65-year-old white man woodworking. Like it's going to continue to show you that, even though you search for everything else.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like diversifying the feed and like trying to, definitely. Like, I've definitely had to do that.
Yes. It's like an act of intention. Like you can't just expect it to just show it to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm watching our time and we're getting close to the end of the time. So I want to make sure that I get a chance to share with everybody how they can find you and see your work and stuff.
Yeah, of course. All right. So if y'all are interested in the work I do with photography, woodworking, and my art, you could follow me at RNA Woodworks or another account at RNA_artworks. And I believe my website is also still up and running. So it's www.rnawoodworks.com. And that platform pretty much will take you to my Etsy, my other social media accounts, and it's pretty much a one-stop shop there.
Okay. Awesome. Do you have Patreon? I didn't ask that.
I am currently like working up to that. Okay. I have my Patreon like membership made, but I just have to finish my account. I don't really know what I would post on there, but it's a learning process.
If you figure that out, you tell me, because I have a Patreon for the podcast and I will, and I love my patrons over there. So those who are listening, thank you so much. Love you over there that continue to support. I always struggle with though, like I get told a lot that most of the time they're supporting the podcast not because of like what they get in return, just to like support me and support the podcast. And so like I struggle with engagements on like posts and stuff over there when I do put stuff, because that's not what they're a patron for. But then I struggle because Patreon always sends out their blog posts and it's always like, create new things to like get engagement and then get new patrons. And I'm like, I don't know how. I just don't know how this works.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at right now. So I'm just like, I'm at the I don't know what to do yet. Yeah. But I'm just like, do I just make that first move even though I have no idea?
I am not the right person to ask. I have yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think some people, I don't know if you follow Tiff of Night Carver Designs. She has a Patreon, which I'm not a patron of, but I know she has a Patreon just for the Night Carver Designs. And she does like a monthly sticker club. And so like if you're a patron, she turns one of her like wood signs, she'll put some up and say, okay, vote which one of these gets turned into a sticker. And so then the patrons vote which one they want a sticker of, and then she makes a sticker and sends those out, which is pretty rad. That's awesome. Yeah, it's super rad, and it gets that engagement. I will also say that's got to be a ton of work. Like that's just like I still owe probably 6 people t-shirts, and eventually they'll get them.
Yeah, like eventually.
But it's one of those things of like when you put together your tiers and you're figuring out like what somebody get for like $1 a month, or what does somebody get for $7 a month or whatever. Like you also have to be able to like back that up, right? Like you have to be able to meet that expectation.
Dang. All right, I'm definitely gonna like take all of this in because this is like super helpful. Dang.
Yeah, I would say like, I would reach out to Tiff and like pick her brain, because I feel like hers is probably pretty successful, especially based on like following ratio, if that makes sense. Like I know Patreon, like Chris Salamoni of Four Eyes, like his Patreon is hugely successful, but he's also like a big YouTuber. So it's kind of like,
oh dang.
Yeah, so like comparing like where you are with followers based on how successful you are with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like moving locations. But it's like, where's the charger?
You're good. Well, I'll say thank you so much, Robyn, for chatting today and for sharing your story with me and the listeners. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. It's like, it was really like an honor to be on a guest on your podcast, like as like the first trans masculine non-binary person. I was like, what? Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So again, that was Robyn Ness of RNA Woodworks. I will include the link on how you can follow along with him in the show notes for today's episode. Best places to find that are the description on your podcast app. If you're watching this on the Freeman Furnishings YouTube channel, check the description box down below. And then lastly, you can head on over to freemanfurnishings.com/podcast to find this episode as well as all the past episodes. Make sure to follow along with the podcast over on Instagram. That's at Crafting a Revolution. And that is where you can find all the ways to support the podcast right there with the link in the bio at Crafting a Revolution on Instagram. There's a link that will send you to Patreon if you want to support the podcast on a monthly ongoing basis. There is a link if you want to do just like a one-time or an occasional donation. You can do that there as well. And then if you want to support the podcast because you're enjoying it, but not necessarily in a monetary way, you can make sure that you share about the podcast and then head on over to iTunes and leave a review. That really helps broaden the range that the podcast gets, because the more reviews and more likes and more subscriptions, then the more that the algorithms will help push the podcast out. So all of those are the ways that you can help the podcast continue to grow as we do year over year. So thank you so much for that. And while you're over there on Instagram, again, at Crafting a Revolution, then you can also say hi to your hosts, myself, Katie Freeman. You can find me at Freeman Furnishings and see whatever crazy project I'm up to, whether it's power carving or resin or just doing a dance in the shop. And you can also say hi to my co-host, Katie Thompson, at Women of Woodworking. That is one of her passion projects that she's been running for quite some time now. You can also find her under Pen and Chisel as well. So next week, there will be just one brand new episode. In the meantime, let's get on out there and craft a revolution.